Hello and welcome to the Ms. Wonderful Film Club blog. I am your host. Oh, it's not a blog, it's a video cast. The Ms. Wonderful
Yes.
Film Club video cast. Yeah. But also a blog.
hmm
And I am your host, Jana Marie Rose. And this is my best friend with me, who is Ms. Cool, whose name is Katie McGraw. She has a hyphenated last name, but we sort of drop it for this video cast. Is that okay with you? What do you think about this
Yes.
hyphen and no hyphen? Tell me your thoughts since we're talking about two movies about women in the 80s and there's all kinds of stuff about feminism coming out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Tell me about because we both have interesting last name choices that are not conventional, you and I, Ms. Cool.
Right. Oh, because of the hyphen
Well,
for
yours
me?
is hyphened and mine is um created.
Yeah. My thoughts on it.
Yeah, tell me about your choice to make a hyphen of your last name since we are talking about Working Girl and Flashdance and these were both movies written and directed by men, and I
hmm
think the 80s was a time when women were starting to rock the boat, the proverbial boat.
Sure. Second or third wave feminism, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So the hyphen was
I'm going to eat some lunch while you talk. I hope you don't mind.
okay, sure.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
So I went with the hyphen because, my mom also had done that, and it seemed like a good way to merge my name and my husband's last name. Uh, and it's a way of still keeping my maiden name. Um, there was part of me that was like, I'll just keep my maiden name, whatever. Uh, but I think just it's stupid, but like for legal papers, documents, etc., it seemed like it would be easier to have added the last name of my husband rather than just keep us two separate last names completely. Now, does it still get me into like not jams, but red tape or problems? Yeah, because sometimes people will or will mail things to Mr. and Mrs. McGraw, or and that's my name, or there's not enough boxes sometimes to fill in my last name. Uh, So that can be a bit of a tricky thing, but it's not so inconvenient. And I like that it gives me both. And since I do have a kid, it's nice to have us all have at least that one last name. Um, yeah, basically it's all that and just growing up with it as I did, it didn't seem odd to want to keep my name and just add to it.
Was your mom go by the hyphen too?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean she doesn't still get like sometimes just her last name or just my dad's last name or like any combination of things. But yeah, she's always kept it hyphenated since, 1979. Um, when I don't think it was as popular to necessarily do that.
Yeah, so your mom was a little pioneer thinking ahead outside the box or something.
Yes. Well, she liked her last name. I think that's the other thing. If I really hated my last name, but I like my last name, so why not hold on to it? Especially like when you're in professional settings and you've always been your maiden name, it's at least nice to retain that and not have to suddenly be called an altogether different name.
So I want to I feel like both of these movies grapple with these questions about women who are working, who are doing things that are a little different.
Yes.
We initially started this theme for the spring of Joan Cusack, and Joan Cusack won an award for Working Girl, correct? She wasn't just nominated. I believe she won for supporting actress for
I
Working Girl. Am I wrong?
I don't think she won
She was
the
nominated.
she was nominated and so was Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver's like, yeah, I love her and everything.
She's
You could,
always good. She
yeah.
nails it every time.
And her name's
She's next level,
Sigourney.
especially with this character.
Like, where does that, like, that name, even that last name, Weaver, is interesting. Like, who has a name like Sigourney Weaver? Like, it's just
I
so
think technically
unusual.
Sigourney isn't her real name. I feel like it's actually Susan.
Oh, she made it Sigourney to be
I think so.
all
I could be
wrong.
wrong. I did no research.
Yeah. So, the reason I'm saying that is because I feel like that's the theme of what these two movies address. And I think they also kind of point to the questions about women in Hollywood or women who are successful and how, women might choose to pursue their dreams in a way that's a little more different than the traditional kind of masculine path, because to be in industries that didn't quite accept women as equals, women might have had to do some things that were a little different to get there, um, which is what I think Working Girl sort of
Yes.
shows. But in terms of names, so I was sitting at a bar in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and this woman started telling me, and I looked this up, and it's true, and it's a little freaky, that apparently there's some kind of bill that the current president is looking into that would be about credit in terms of credit cards and women's names. And if you are a single woman or not married, it almost like reverts back to a 1970s kind of thing.
When you need your
Um,
dad or your husband's name to open a credit card.
yes, yes. Um,
Yeah, I haven't heard that one necessarily. I've heard where it's about your voting, you could be purged from voting rolls if your names aren't matching up, and that can mess up for people, for women that have like a hyphenated name or their maiden name versus their married name. And that would be one way that you get disenfranchised, of course, is you
yeah,
get purged from the registration rolls.
yeah. I mean, the way she was phrasing it, she said, she was like, I had to ask a friend of mine, a boy who's a friend, if he would just marry me so that I would be protected if this thing rolls out, so that I can at least still maintain like credit cards because I've never been married. Um,
Oh. It's
yeah.
very Handmaid's Tale, like Act One Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, Handmaid's Tale. Yeah. So this is the
Ugh.
the headline on MSNBC. The House GOP tramples on women's rights with the passage of SAVE Act. I don't I don't like that, even that title that they have, but I feel like because it sort of just immediately creates like a connection, but I think they could do a better job with the title. I'm just looking at the way
I
they
mean,
are
the save
phrasing
thing.
it. Yeah, that this is the is this the all states obtain proof of citizenship from people registering to vote, as well as mandate that states have a program to remove undocumented immigrants from existing voter rolls. Voting rights activists have condemned the measure as a voter suppression bill. And then I guess this is how it affects women, like because of the name thing that you just mentioned, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, Trump's all about protecting women. Nobody protects women like he
because he
does.
said it, because he said
Because he
it.
says it all the time.
Yeah.
He protects us so much.
We're being
That's all we can do.
sarcastic for anybody who's listening. He does seem
Of
to follow through
course.
though.
Yes.
The thing is he does, there's a lot of people who say things and don't follow through. He says things that are disturbing,
Crazy.
but he follows through. And I think
Yes.
sometimes people think that means
He's
something
getting
good.
stuff done. Well, he's doing all the
Um,
executive orders that now get challenged
so it's
in
saying, yes, I know. So this bill would make registering to vote extremely difficult for millions of women who have changed their name. Um, and
Mm,
so that is where these issues of, topics of feminism that I think people are sometimes afraid to address, especially because we've just had so much backlash in so many ways about women's rights. But the last name is really significant in terms of thinking about your identity and who you come from and where you come from. And like for me, my
right.
last
And
name
how do you
originally,
prove it? Like,
yeah, well, and it seems to I don't know. It can become very hierarchical in focusing on last names, but it is very in English and patriarchal culture, it's very much based on your father's name, right? So you're always given a last name associated with your father in at least United States is the way it's common. And um the experience of changing your name as a woman always disturbed me because
Mhm.
it just felt like I was giving up like a sense of identity and I didn't understand why to do that. But when I analyzed it with my Virgo brain, as you were saying you did with your Virgo brain, I I
Yes.
realized like I grew up with a name because of having divorces in my family and not traditional family units. My last name growing up wasn't really close to my heart and I didn't feel like a sense of connection to that family line, that paternal family line.
Hmm.
So to me, I was going to do the hyphen like you did when I got married, like in 2003. And then I chose not to do the hyphen because it would have been a 5 syllable last name that just seemed horrendous for like children to have to deal with and also for me to have to
Sure.
deal with.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was go as a teacher. Here's the other thing that's interesting. Some jobs you use your last name a lot more than other jobs. You know, you're referred to
Sure.
by your last name. So it becomes another big sense of identity. And as a teacher, I was teaching young women in a Catholic girls' private school. And I felt that by changing my name, I was sending a message to them of this is just the way things go. You get married, you change your name. So I was trying to keep my maiden name while I was a teacher. And then, on paperwork, like official paperwork, had my married name. And
Right.
this librarian who I really liked, she was like looking at papers and she just got really frustrated and she's like, what are you doing with your name here? I was like, well, I'm keeping it. I'm keeping my name here
Okay.
so the students don't have to like adjust, but on the papers and taxes and everything. And she's like, I just think, this is getting too complicated. So I decided I
See,
had
and
to
I
go.
experienced a similar thing. Yes. And I don't like it because it is like, look, it might be a headache later, but I'm choosing to do this, and you telling me the reason I shouldn't do it maybe is because it's going to be a bit of a process, or it's a headache, or it's going to be too confusing. And when it's like, it's not that confusing. As I had to say to the Social Security representative that I was talking to when I was trying to change my name, and who did not think it was a good idea, especially like
The social security
the
person
two
start
last.
the person's telling you their opinion about your name change.
Yes. Well, because I was like saying what it was. I had it spelled out. I'm waiting there. I'm the only one waiting there, but I still had to wait. And then she just looked at the paperwork and she was like, okay. And I had my marriage certificate and she's like, okay, so you want to change it? And then she said the name wrong because just that always happens. And then I said, yeah, that's what I'm changing it to. And then she just kind of had this look and she goes, really? It's like, yeah, really? Yes. And then she's like, you sure? It'd be kind of a pain or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to change my mind just because you're saying this to me, lady." Like, I didn't say that. I
It's
just
like
said, yeah, no,
propaganda.
I get it.
It's like somebody's
I
propaganda
know.
at your door, like, oh God, bureaucratically, this is a real pain. This is a real nightmare for us.
Yeah, you're going to have a problem later or whatever it was. And I was just like, just file the paperwork. What's it to you? Like, now, of course, I was polite and nice and just was like, yeah, I get it. It could be a problem later, but I'm going to go with that because that's my name.
Well, I think the
But it's
question,
funny to hear that you ran into the same thing,
oh
which is,
yeah,
oh, it's
from
going to be a
women.
problem.
And it's
Yeah.
women both times, right? That was a woman.
Yeah.
My situation was women. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's oftentimes women who are like, I gotta get you in line here. Like women to other women.
We're just like,
It's
oh, let
not
me save you a
necessarily a
step.
man. I found a
Right.
lot of times men are very open minded, not all men, but plenty. are open-minded about like, oh, you know, that's your choice, you know, do your thing, you know, do your thing, ho. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Right.
They don't call us hoes. I mean,
Yeah, right.
only behind closed doors. But you know, they'll be like that. And then there's the women who are
Right.
like hands on the hip, like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
Really? Yeah. So
that's a lot.
that's paperwork. So that's why,
Basically, that has been the argument that I've seen.
yeah, paperwork. You're difficult because you want to do something different. You want to exercise a choice or some right you
Yeah.
think you have as a woman. And now
Like,
it's creating a
how's
bureaucratic
it going to
mess
bother
for us.
you?
I
Right.
just
Where
think
it's
it's
not
about
even that big a deal.
convention.
I
It's a
don't
lot of,
know because I, go ahead.
it's just about convention and, you know, how to, a lot of times women get frustrated not because they are necessarily conventional themselves. They're just insecure and fearful of doing anything different. And so a woman who does do something different, they it almost rattles them, I think. I mean, I'm making
Yeah,
blanket broad, you know, statements
of
here, but
course, but that's
I do
fine.
have some lived experience. So in terms of name, let me just wrap this up because it does relate to the heroines of these films. I don't know if I would call them both heroines or both, you know, in the films, but
Protagonists.
protagonists, yeah. Um so when you get divorced, it is quite frustrating and annoying to then have the name of the man you're divorced from because you're walking around with this name and you're not really in that betrothed, you know,
Right.
experience. Um, and we often make choices as women for the kids, right? Well, I'm going to have kids, so I'm changing my name. But people would often ask me, you know, if they saw the last name that was long and had you know, just sometimes a difficult spelling to explain, and I always had to spell it. They would say, "Oh, are you Welsh?" And I would feel really frustrated because I was like, "I'm not Welsh. No, that's not really my name." And then I kept thinking, "Why am I walking around with this name that's not my name?" You know,
Right.
and why is it somehow giving off the message that I'm Welsh? So what I
The
did,
origins of it.
what I and I know women you know, sometimes they marry again and they take somebody's name again, and I have a real adamant opinion about that, which is like no. So I'm like there will be no changing of my name again. So I, as you
Yeah.
know, I went to France. I'm not even kidding. I based my new last name, which I love so deeply. I based my new
Hmm.
last name on a movie that was advertised through Paris in 2019. And it was called, and I've never really told this story before, but it's called Wild Rose.
Okay.
So it's this adorable movie about a woman. She's in Nashville. She has like a really hard time with, I think she has a drug problem or something. And I didn't know this about the movie. I just kept seeing it advertised everywhere and it said Wild Rose. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, my new last name is going to be Rose. But the movie,
so
when I finally watched it,
you just went headlines from it, basically.
well, no, I finally watched it and it was so cute because she's, you know, she's like struggling with addiction. I think she might even go to prison or something. She has these two kids, they're staying with her mom. And then she gets
Is this
out.
Jessie Buckley?
I don't know. Is that the
Is it
actress?
British or Irish or something?
Yes.
She's a singer.
Yes, you saw
Yeah,
it?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her mom's really sweet to her and like her mom, you know, her mom is like anyway, it's a lot of the story is about her mom supporting her through this challenging time because she's different and she's playing music and she has a whole different vibe about her. But I don't know if her first name was
Hmm.
Rose or not, but it just felt like that advertisement through Paris through the whole 2019 was just like, you know, jumping out at me. And I had been thinking for a long time, what am I doing with this Welsh last name? And I'm not Welsh and I don't like having to spell it. And this doesn't feel right for me. And then I was like, Rose is the most awesome last name. It's a flower, it's a verb,
Hmm.
and it's simple to spell and it's four letters. So, and
Yeah,
it has all kinds of poetic connections, right?
of
So,
course.
and it's varied in terms of its heritage, right? So there's not necessarily one ethnic or national kind of background for the name. It has multiple dimensions of understanding of, heritage, which makes sense.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Anyway, I
You
just
can
and then
see
I
the appeal.
and I met a woman who's an actress. We met in an acting class, and she changed her last name to Wild. So she did the same
Hmm.
thing I did, but
With an
like
E on the end?
yeah, a couple years before, and she made it
Yeah.
WYLDE, I think. So she did the
Oh,
same thing. She was divorced. She was carrying on like this name that wasn't hers. And you
right,
just basically go to the courthouse and move, go through a process, and you have to, pay for this advertisement to be, I think it's in the legal intelligence or something. You have to pay for an ad. Then you have to fill out some paperwork, and then you have your day in court. And I think you have to do fingerprints just so that they know you're not trying to escape
right.
from something,
Scam.
Yeah, scam. And then you have your day in court, you pay this amount of money, and your name is changed.
Mhm.
Like the judge asks you, you have a
Sure.
reason or something.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool thing. And I don't think people really know about how empowering like the government can sort of be, and sometimes how many options we have that we're not always aware of. Because when you watch a lot of the news, it just sounds really overwhelming at times when you see there are changes happening, there are people doing
Hmm.
things, but like they're also within our democracy, within the English language, within our rights. There's so much that you can do that is really liberating. And the other people that go to court oftentimes, I think, to have their names changed are people who are transgender and transsexual. They're making like they're using the legislative process to change their name, and that's very liberating for them as well to
Right.
have a license or whatever to reflect this sense of new identity. So I don't
Yeah.
know that it's like radically
Makes
different.
sense.
I don't know that changing one's name in terms of gender or thinking about yourself as growing, I don't know that it's radically different than a woman changing her last name. You know what I mean? But we tend to think that changing your last name or adapting your last name is convention because we've been so stuck in a
Yeah.
society. But there are plenty of women who they get married, their name changes, they get divorced, their name changes, right? So I think we can sort of
Mhm.
see overlaps in other people making choices to change their name.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or they want a stage name,
Yeah.
or there's already someone with their name in the like whatever guild they're joining, and so they have to change it that way.
Yeah. And Quakers, so the Religious Society of Friends, I don't know if you're aware of this because you're a Catholic lady,
True.
but it was very common for Quakers to change their first names.
Their first names.
Yeah. They
Mm.
felt that they were overcome by the Holy Spirit. I mean, I don't even know what century this was in because they started in the 1600s in England, but they did some radical things, and like they walked naked through the streets as an example. And they also would feel that it was incumbent upon them to change their first names so that they could more accurately reflect the the inner spiritual change that had occurred for them.
Hmm.
So I just think,
Well, it's kind of like religious orders. You change your name a lot of times depending on what order you join for
yes,
nuns or
yeah,
popes.
yeah, yeah,
It's like a thing.
yeah. So in Working Girl, um, the
Yes.
main character's name, so it's played by Melanie Griffith, is Tess. And again, just
McGill.
thinking about names, yeah. But Tess of the D'Urbervilles, do you know this 19th century book? I love this book by Thomas Hardy,
Of
Tess of the
course.
D'Urbervilles.
I
Yeah.
had to read
So
that book.
you don't hear Tess very much. Do you think it's possible that the writers of Working Girl were kind of thinking about her as a modern day Tess from Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Like
I mean, you
treated
never know what's
poorly, really
rattling around.
smart. Yeah, smart, but kind of treated poorly.
I guess it's if you want to do like a radical turn it on its head Tess of the D'Urbervilles, like sex farce rom-com,
Do you think it was a
then
rom?
yeah, that works.
Do you think Working Girl is a rom com?
I think there's an element of it's not like your standard rom-com, but it definitely has elements of just silliness and just I would say silliness, like almost broad comedy in certain places.
Yeah. Well, Joan
Played
Cusack.
more by
Don't you think
she is,
Joan?
but so is Harrison Ford, I think.
Yeah, he does bring some humor to it. Yeah,
Yeah, where he's kind of being like dopey or whatever.
yeah,
And she does too when she's like nervous or drunk,
yeah, yeah.
but not as much.
She has more of the Joan Cusack. I think has more of the kind of humor and the accent and the bigness.
Yes,
Whereas Melanie
right. The
Griffith's
hair,
character, yeah,
the
Melanie.
makeup.
I know, I love it. I love the hair and makeup. But Melanie Griffith, who plays Tess, starts out with the big hair, but then she has to kind of
Yeah,
tone it down in order to succeed. That's the idea. Is like she has to
yeah. To
not wear the
rise above.
bracelets, not do the big hair
No,
because you have to fit in order to succeed. But isn't it a double-edged
true.
sword to the way she has to kind of fit in? Because I did not find her, and this is why I wanted to compare it to Flashdance. Tess in Working Girl, like she's not empowered to me. It's almost to me an illusion of power. She doesn't genuinely
Sure.
seem empowered to me. But I want to know what you think of that.
Um, right. I think she's sort of quietly empowered, but because she knows she's smart and she when she gets talking about like the deals she wants to do or her ideas, she's very on it. She's very um savvy, but she doesn't present as super empowered. She's not like Sigourney Weaver's character, Catherine, who's like very kind of hoity-toity, went to Wellesley, has an MBA kind of, but also you can tell like comes from money, has not had to be scrappy in the way that Tess has. But Tess, I mean, I get when it's sort of not empowered on her own in the way of like she has to be a bit of an imposter and lean on Harrison Ford's character, Jack, to help her get a deal done. But she's still, I feel like, the driving force. I mean, she's driving even Jack through the process when she like has them crash that wedding and is like, we're just gonna do this. Like, and then they both kind of get in it together, but except that he doesn't know she is not empowered in the way that she's acting. Um, but she never seems like it's like I feel like the whole time I'm like, she's gonna be fine. Like she's gonna figure it out. She put herself through school. She's dealing with her schmuck of an ex-boyfriend.
That's a good word for him.
played yeah, played superbly by Alec Baldwin. And I feel like she does have like she also is someone who's always even if it doesn't seem like it, she's always thinking about what do I need to do to get to the next level. Like she was already looking at the ways you should dress and uh, what magazines that are like more society type pages. She's always reading that as well, and she uses it to help mold herself as well as like figure out how people might be connected that she could use to bolster her network. Um, and then she even right away starts using Catherine's dictaphone, which is just mwah, so 80s, as she's on the like whatever, the bike, exercise bike, and repeating back to her to the room, basically to herself, how Catherine is saying things so that she can have better elocution, which is very like My Fair Lady. And she's the one doing all that. No one's telling her to do it. She is doing it. She's being sneaky, but she is savvy at the same time.
But it seems to me like she's just copying somebody else. And she's not, and this is why I find Working Girl not impressive as a story, especially when it relates to women, because I think men can write a good story about women. Anna Karenina, Madame Bovary, right? So there's plenty of them, Casa de D'Urbervilles. But
They all
in
died tragically,
well,
those women.
damn.
They do.
Well, these women don't die.
And they all get punished for sex.
Okay, I want to come back to that thought, but it's
Okay.
really depressing. But Alex to me in Flashdance, right, played by Jennifer Beals,
Yeah.
she isn't copying anybody. Like she's learning, but she's really in a position that she has to be an original. And that is why growing up, so Flashdance was 1983. Working Girl was
Yeah.
1988. I don't think I was allowed to watch Working Girl when it came out because there's more some sex and lingerie in
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
But
There's needless nudity.
yeah, but I loved Alex as a heroine for myself as a kid because I love to dance. So, but she's playing with, to me, gender roles in an interesting way. To me she's very sensual, she's very sexy, but she's also
Hmm.
during the day wearing a hard hat and working, like doing mining or something. Like what is she doing in
Welding.
welding? So she totally embodies like the role she has to play while she's at her welding job, and then she gets on her bike and goes home and has the shoulder and the red shoes and the dancing ballerina thing in her apartment, which is like a cool loft thing that
Yes. Warehouse
probably doesn't have heat, but it's just so perfect because that's like how 80s. I love those 80s wait.
tropes.
Yeah, that they were fun.
Yeah.
The lofts, the like strange lofts people live in. But so to me, she also has like Alex to me has a value system. So talking about sex and sexuality, because I think you're right. Women are oftentimes in society punished or rewarded. It's some strange double-edged sword for like
Yeah.
sexuality. So in um Flashdance, she is able to have this nightlife where she's going on a stage. Alex is. She's going on a stage
Yeah.
and it's at a bar and she's dancing. And yes, it's sexy dancing, but she's not nude dancing. And she's really
No.
using it as a place for her art. Like she's very artistic in her approach to like these shows she puts on. She really puts a lot of
Right.
time into them. Not all the women do that, but I mean, it's like really cool. I think what she's doing is really cool.
Yeah.
But her friend Sunny, who decides to start dancing for money, she's like, that is not okay. You're not going to do that. And so
Well, they're
she,
all dancing for money. She
but
just
it's
goes for the
naked.
full
Yeah,
strip
that's what I
club
meant.
where
The
you
stripping.
could make more money.
Right. The stripping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she makes it clear, like, as a friend, that's not okay. You're not going to do that. So
Right.
I feel like she knows where the line is, right? And there's crossing the
Hmm.
line and like managing the edge. And I feel like she manages the edge um really well. And she continues to be able to do that. Although in both of these movies, you have the women they're sleeping with the bosses,
Yeah.
basically.
There
Yeah.
is a power imbalance happening. Oh, well, with Jack, he's not her boss. He's at a different company. She's depending on him, but she's also sort of using him, but then falls in love, and they fall in love in like 2 weeks, which is crazy. But
You mean in Working Girl? In Working Girl?
yeah, Working
Yeah.
Girl. In I was surprised that at least in this 1983 movie, they have Alex saying, I'm not sleeping with the boss, and like that's not okay. And meanwhile, this guy, because I was looking up what their ages are. So she's supposed to be 18. I think she was 20 or something when she made the movie. And I don't know how old they're making him, but in real life, he was 38 years old. Uh,
So that
Michael,
18 years old difference or something.
about, yeah. So again, another big power imbalance.
But is it, I guess I want to know, is it always
He's her
that way?
direct boss. That is a definite power imbalance. And
But
she's a teenager.
yeah.
So that
You,
is,
you gave me a look there where you're like, this is very clear. Yeah.
it says an 18-year-old in like the description of the movie. So to
No, I
me,
hear you. Yeah. I
it
never
is
thought
all
of
problem.
it. Well, when I watched it, I didn't, I think just as a kid watching it, it didn't,
No, you don't
I didn't
notice
think of
that.
it that way. Like I didn't think of the age element. Obviously, he was
Yeah.
older and he was the boss. But I guess the danger of that is that if he didn't like her or he got mad at her, he could fire her. That's where
I
the
mean,
power
he,
imbalance is.
right. Well, he
He
jokingly
doesn't.
says, "You're fired so that I'll take you out to dinner tomorrow because you don't date to the boss." And it's like, okay, well, that's a funny throwaway line, but like, and also you could see part of it being, I mean, it's looking at it through today's lens, but even I feel like in the 80s lens, when he's pursuing her and she tells him on multiple occasions, I believe, no, I'm not interested, and he keeps going, that is harassment, actually.
But in the movie, it's not harassment. But in life, you're saying it would be
It,
harassment.
yes, but in the movie, it actually is because she does tell him repeatedly no. So just because she eventually says yes doesn't mean him always making her, getting her to the point to say no doesn't suddenly exist. Like it doesn't negate what happened before. And again, I'm not trying to say, because you know what? I like a happy ending in a movie. It's cute when he is, and his character is like actually very, it's a little paternalistic because how can it not be? But he is really trying to help her and wants her to do well and is encouraging her in her dream and saying you'll regret it if you don't. So like that's all good. But it's not, it doesn't change the what the dynamics are. I mean, that's just how it is.
I
It's
love.
a nice fairy tale to a degree.
Yeah, it is. So, but okay. So what you're saying is like really fascinating because I think it relates to thinking about relationships that are romantic and also Hollywood in general and there's so many stories about men who were inappropriate and women finally starting to say, that was inappropriate, but they didn't always know how to quite say it in the moment at times and women coming forward. Um and you're
Right.
kind of pointing out what what became a legal issue, starting more commonly in the 80s and still into today, where if a woman feels like she's being harassed or something, I mean, that didn't used to be a law that you couldn't
No.
harass someone in the workplace, but it is now,
Yeah.
because of situations like that. And so in the movie Flashdance, it's erotic in the sense that, she kind of likes him, but she doesn't think it's appropriate to date the boss, but he likes her. And so to me, it's the way it's cast in the movie. So real life, I'm not talking about all of these situations, but in the movie, it
Mhm.
feels like he kind of knows that they have a thing. And if he just is, a little more persistent, she
Sure.
might be willing to go on a date with him, which she eventually does. But you're saying, like, in terms of appropriate boundaries, he shouldn't say it at all. And in that case, I feel like it's becoming really complicated for men and women, and especially men nowadays, to understand what are they allowed to say and not say. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I'm not saying that as a way to excuse bad behavior,
Right.
because every person you talk to, man or woman, or somebody who sees themselves as both, there's going to be different people with different opinions. And so I think what's becoming challenging is we are getting so technical in terms of texting communication or dating apps or little boxes that people have to fit into, because the natural evolution of relationships is sometimes a little bit of that, back and forth dance play type of thing. And it's
Sure.
also super common, I have to note this, that men are older and women are younger in relationships. Like there's so many Hollywood men who date women much younger and they get flack for it, but it's like sometimes cliches or something exist for a reason. You know, there's something about the youthful woman who offers something to the older man, or you know what I mean? Because you see it so often. It's like Adrienne Grenier
Yeah.
has that girlfriend. Well, you know,
Yes.
she's the wife.
Well,
Leo DiCaprio, right? And then there's like Ethan Hawke. Like they're all the guys.
yeah.
They often date these younger women.
Right. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. I do feel like, okay, well, we got to leave Leo out of it because honestly, he's a whole class unto himself. He truly is like, I keep getting older, they stay the same age because 27, I think, is his cutoff for girlfriends. He literally has a new 24 to 27-year-old girlfriend on a regular basis.
What
And
if he
that's
wants to have
disturbing
a
because
baby though? I kind of wonder if he just wants to have a baby, so he's picking young women so he can have a
he's
baby.
had 25 years to be doing that. Like,
I don't know the guy. I'm just
I
I
don't either, but I'm just saying it doesn't see that is not behavior that you see in someone who's like, I'm just looking to settle down, have a family. It's like, I don't think so. I don't think you, and that's fine. Do you? Everybody's consenting, okay, but let's not kid ourselves. And also, yeah, of course, there's older men that, sometimes it works out, God bless, and there's a big age difference. But a lot of times it's really like you are sucking away that woman's youth. And I hope, she's not losing her like reproductive time is getting wasted on you if it's just going to be, I like it for 10 years, but then I can go on and have kids somewhere else. You lady, sorry. I do think it's like it's not necessarily what you want to aim for. Also, what are you talking about when you're like 50 and your girlfriend's 25? I guess you're not doing a lot of talking or I don't know what, because you know what? I've been 25 and I like to think I was sort of, intellectual and somewhat wise beyond my years. But
you're a
come on.
Virgo. Virgos are.
Right. But like, what would I be talking about with a 50-year-old? I mean, that's my parents' age. Like when I was 25, they were like 50. So what am I talking about with them? The baby boomer generation. Like, and also it's just like, even if you're an old soul, you still haven't lived that many years on the planet. You still haven't had that life experience. So it just seems so, and I can see how that comes up in the Flashdance relationship because she is somewhat rebelling against him at times, the boss, like a kid would with a parent when he's trying to be like, you've got to settle down, like you're, and I'm agreeing with him. I'm like, yeah, girl, like, so what if he got the call for you to get the audition? The audition's on you. And like, but to me, I'm like, that's very parental. And the reason I'm feeling that way is because I'm thinking, don't be a dumb kid who thinks I have to do it exactly my way. And if I don't do it exactly my way, then it's not really mine. And it's all or nothing. And you have like the 38-year-old guy over here saying, which is true, that's not how it's not all or nothing. Like, you're still going to be the one who makes the decision. You have to follow your dream. But like, if you're already at that kind of a place, it's like, okay, daddy boyfriend. I just feel like that's going to be a thing. Like it's already there. She's acting irrationally at times about some stuff because she's got it in her head, this ideal, and that's okay. You're 18. That's how you're going to be. You're not fully formed. But I don't see how a relationship works in the long term. I'll tell you what, she gets to like 30, has a couple kids with him, and then he moves on to another dancer. I don't want to say that because I do like the character. He's very nice. But like if we're being real, that's not his like last wife in the making. If that's gonna happen.
I wrote a poem about Flashdance like that, thinking about like what happens after years and like, does she
Yeah.
is she gonna have a kid and what's that like? I thought
He'll be a
about that.
retired dancer because you can't keep
Yeah.
doing it and have kids.
But here's the thing, okay. So, I mean, I hear everything that you're saying and I totally
Sure.
get what you're saying. I also just I think for different people different things work and people have to sort of choose what works for them.
Sure.
And she is more of an, to me in that movie, she's more of an old soul. She's the one who's more balanced in terms of keeping her wild friends in line or telling the dirty guys at the bar, like, back off. So she
Right.
has that tough thing. And it makes sense to me that she would want somebody older because she needs a safe person. And the guys that show up at the bar, and the
Oh,
places that
well,
she's
yeah.
going, they're
That is
not
a,
really, they're not equipped.
well, they're completely bottom of the barrel with running the gamut. Like there's a lot of guys in between those two
Yeah, I
extremes
guess
that
so, but maybe
are
not in her
available.
world, right? Like, maybe not
I
in the
don't
way that
know.
she would find them. And here, so my second point is maybe not everybody has to think about dating as a route to marriage,
But it
you
doesn't have
know?
to be.
Because not everybody wants to have kids. Not everybody needs to have kids. Not everybody needs to get married. Um,
No.
and she doesn't really get into whether she's somebody who wants to be married. I've talked to plenty of women who've met somebody who's older, like Alex did in the movie. They got married. They might have even had kids, but it yeah, maybe the marriage didn't last their whole lives. And that could be said for somebody of your own age, of her own age. You know what I mean? If she got married
Oh,
at
sure.
24 or 25. So, I don't know. I mean, I think if you are looking for a conventional life where you meet somebody, you get married, you have children, and you live that out, then yeah, maybe he's not the best choice. On the other hand, though, he sticks up for her,
He
and
does.
he does things for her,
We're
and
looking at a
he
snapshot
yeah.
in time of this. So, like, if we're just going to be in the world of the movie, it's all fine. He brings her dog and flowers and a big red ribbon on them at the end, and then it does a weird freeze frame where she gives him a rose from the bunch of roses he gives her, and then it just stops. And that was a real choice for editing, I think. But like, that's fine. And that's where that movie ends. That's that movie. So I'm not going to think outside of that. I will say, like, it's still problematic even within the movie. There's a lot of different things that are like not great. And also the way the movie is shot, I believe I saw the name Esterhaus and Bruckheimer in the credits as either producers or direct, whatever it is. And so, especially with Esterhaus, uh, Joe Esterhaus, he, it is very much, in some ways, it's like sort of empowering women and sort of through the male gaze for much of the shots
Yeah.
of the women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's really focusing on, like, part of it is like, yeah, we're focusing on the dance and they're tough and they're powerful, and that's good. But then there's a lot of just body parts, then some nudity, and just very like, is if a woman were filming this, is this how she would film it?
Yeah,
Probably
that's a good
not.
question. Yeah, really good question.
I just feel like it is a little bit more of that, especially like early 80s, like the guy showing the kind of girl he'd want. Like she's tough, she's a welder, but she dances practically naked sometimes at night, and she's young and all this other stuff. And like she's the cool girl. I mean, basically. And it's kind of it's not a huge personality that she gets to have, I feel like. It's very I don't know, prescribed of like, also the movie itself is not like getting into a lot of explanation or talking about getting into real character development that much because it's not a long movie. It just kind of gives you more surfacey stuff, but it's I I like the character. Actually, she does kind of annoy me at times, but that's because she's like 19 or 18, whatever, and the character makes some like just seemingly immature, dumb decisions at times about how she's moving in the world. I don't know. I felt unsafe for her when she's going through Pittsburgh and riding her little bike and dealing with what are basically rapists in the parking lot, that guy, but it's like they're all still friendly. But he's like legitimately trying to kidnap and assault her at that at one point. But then it's all like it's all good. Like those are it's hard for me to be able to look at that and feel great. But she is following her dream, and I do think that was a big thing, especially for that time. of showing a young woman who's like, well, is a welder, is doing like what is typically man's work, and also pursuing this other side of her, creative side of her, that is, you know, her real dream. But the way it's shown sometimes is a little bit like just, uh, you know, trying to show a sort of stereotype of a woman where it's like, I like that she's this in the streets and this and she's like, it's got a real like
Well,
not
but that
much complexity.
I think she does have complexity. I think she's dancing. It makes sense that she would be flexible in terms of where she is in different situations. She's going to have maybe a different approach. I also think that I understand what you mean. Like, how would a woman film Flashdance if it was going to be remade and a woman did it? I, I'm heterosexual, but I think women's bodies are beautiful, and
Of course.
I don't. So I do think sometimes there's ideas that that women can't, I don't know, film other women in ways that are soft and alluring, and also just it's a beautiful figure. Like, I think the movie Lee, I forget the director's name, but I know she's from New Jersey. I did it on my blog. Lee, Lee, has Kate Winslet,
Mhm.
and Kate Winslet is playing this model. Lee, I forget the whole
Turned or
name.
photographer.
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah. Lee
Oh, you
Miller.
saw it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I thought that she did, that was a woman director, but she did. Lee really liked her body. She felt very comfortable in it. And so there are plenty of shots of that movie where she's exposed and, her breasts are seen, but it's
Yeah.
not done in a way that's tasteless. I think it's really tasteful, and it's like
I
French.
agree with
It's
that.
very European. And Europeans have a different expectation of sexuality and what's appropriate in film too. Like, if you watch a French movie, it's rare that you're going to see a movie without somebody unclothed at some point.
Yeah,
It's just more
although at least
common.
they might have more men actually being unclothed.
Yeah, which, hey, go for it, because I
If
think it's
if it
really
calls for it.
yeah. Um so, but okay, so my thesis, if I had to make a thesis about,
Okay.
I think that Alex is more empowered in her body, and so sexually, sensually, and even for her dreams and vision, she's has more empowerment because she's in tune with her body, whereas Tess, in Working Girl, to me, she's mimicking a woman she has seen in a role of success, and she's just kind of doing similar things but a little bit different, making it till she wait faking it till she makes it, right?
Yeah.
It's more, and that's a New York vibe. I feel like it's interesting because, like, Pennsylvania is Flashdance and Working Girls New York. And she's, then she wears the fur and she's dressing in a certain way. So she's just seems to be like she's mimicking. And then she's ending up in these situations with men, like with the boyfriend who's the schmuck, Alex Baldwin. I forget his name in the movie.
Alec Baldwin. Oh, his
Alec.
Mick.
Alec,
It's
yeah.
Mick.
It's Nick.
I think Mick with an M.
It's actually Mick.
I believe so.
Yeah, and he's buying her lingerie for her birthday, and
I
she's like,
know.
I don't know if I like this, and then she's with the Harrison Ford guy. I forget his name in the movie.
Jack.
Jack. He's really cute, but even that, she's uncomfortable with dating him, and yet she's still like, I never felt a sense of real passion between them. It was more just she got drunk that night and he has to carry her up to the bed or something. I
Yeah, but then
mean,
that, no, I don't, of course, all problematic. I mean, I do like the way he plays it off in a way that not every actor could, of being like, I mean, first of all, I'd be like, you don't have to undress someone. Like, you know what? It's fine. She couldn't tell you where she lived. You take her back to your place, you set her up on the couch or whatever, or the bed, and you get on the couch. You leave her in her dress. If she gets sick in it, she gets
yeah,
sick in it. Like,
yeah,
that's all we need to worry about.
right.
So that is definite. But the way he like he's able to play it off in a sort of like all shucks boyish kind of way where you're like, I wouldn't feel threatened by him. Like he seems like a nice guy. Now, of course, that's like the last thing a woman can think sometimes, and then that's it. But like, for the purposes of the movie, it's charming in the way he handles himself later. But I think, she is there. Both these movies deal with imposter syndrome because that's what's holding back Alex in Flashdance. She sees all the ballerinas. She doesn't have the same education. And that's what makes her keep stopping herself from doing the
Yes.
whole process, and has to be forced sort of by saying, like, you have the audition. You don't even need to worry about that part. Do it. But I think that's just how it goes anyway, especially because these are both women who are not born at the top of the food chain. Like, they are not.
So wait,
Like,
tell me more though about imposter syndrome. You feel like that's just natural, like to experience the imposter syndrome?
I think so. I think for many people,
Okay.
especially when they get successful and they didn't live in their background is not one of privilege or maybe higher education, just they're coming from a different background. If they're coming from a working class or more poverty level, like it can vary. They have to have a self-belief to get as far as they do because how else would they propel themselves? But they also can then get to that position and still kind of feel like someone's going to catch me out. Someone's going to hear my accent. Someone's going to hear, is going to see that I used the wrong fork. Somebody's like, it's just like, because there are certain at each level of society, and it's lessened quite a bit now, but even now, there's still like, I will seem out of place. They will know, and the jig will be up. Like, I I made it this far, but they can tell, like, they'll see through me that I'm not as smart as I've been acting, even though it's like, how else could you have gotten here? Or, and you see that with celebrities all the time. All the celebrities are always like, I mean, unless they're all lying, which who knows, but I don't think so. When they're like, I feel like a fraud. And it's like, well, right. That's normal. Like, someone's going to take this away from me. I just know it. And I'm faking it till I make it. And even when I make it, I still feel like I'm faking it. And it's just
But
kind of
see,
a,
to me, that is the thing I don't like about Working Girl. I get Alex's experience with the ballerinas because they dance in a way that's so different than her kind of dance. You know,
oh,
she's
right,
doing this
ballet.
modern dance, and they've been training for years, and she's just kind of been self-taught. I mean, that's typical of a lot of artists who become successful. They're self-taught, but hers is just happens to be dance. But with Tess, she really is faking it and
You kind of
mimicking.
have to, though, in
You
that world.
so okay, so that was I guess a question I have. Do you have to do you really think so?
Yeah, especially if it's the 80s. I mean, just the women getting in the room and not being secretaries was already like a tough one, much less getting into these positions of power. So, like,
I think
it's
it's
even,
just it's an
I think,
interesting question though what you're saying is because you're saying it's almost like women had to bend the rules to get ahead and so it's not fair to sort of judgmentally look at how they got ahead because the problem is the stereotype that exists. There's a
mhm,
stereotype that exists. How did that woman get there? Who was she sleeping with? And especially in Hollywood, there was
right.
a stand.
Or
I
who's
mean,
her parents?
and
Yeah,
well, actresses have said that there was almost an expectation that you had to
of course.
sleep with someone in order to get ahead. So I think that if I don't know. I'm wondering, is it was that really the only way to move up in your career?
Well, not
Um,
sleeping with someone necessarily. I think there
or
was
to even be, sort of
open and seeming.
dodgy and, you
Yeah,
know,
no, I think that's true. I think, or you just had to be like willing to put up with it. I just think that's just basic. I mean, even in jobs growing up, I feel like there's always like that sort of, well, I just gotta laugh it off if somebody says something or they're being like sweetie and honey and like maybe like touching my shoulder or whatever. You're just like, well, that's just the price of doing business as a lady. So like I think it would be even more so in these stockbroker type offices, especially when there's like very few women at the top. And it also, or you have to go this other way, which is like what Harrison Ford even says when he meets Tess, and she's dressed, nice in a sparkly outfit dress. And he's like, oh no, I like the way you're dressed. Cause she's like feeling like, oh no, am I out of place? And he's like, no, I like it. You're not dressing like everyone else, like the women that dress like they think men would dress like if they were women, which it does show like he's talking to a group before her, and at least one of the women is wearing like a tie and like, a vest or something. And sometimes that can be very cool, but it was not a very cool looking outfit to me. Um, so it's kind of like, oh, you either have to kind of be like a man and sort of try to mimic that, or you can go this opposite direction and be very like sexy kind of, but then that doesn't get you super far, especially as a secretary, because she's, getting set up constantly to, I don't even know what these guys want from her to get to have sex with their friends or whatever it is, because that's like a theme in her life before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other way is the Sigourney Weaver way, which is if you got money and you can come from it and you get to go to the right colleges, make the right friends, and then, have some smarts, then you can sort of try to break through that way and glide in. But there's not really a seeming pathway for the secretary who went to night school, got her degree, is, still doing like other courses and getting certified for things that she wants to do, but like no one's asking for her opinion on anything. And
And
every
she
time
might
she
know a lot, right? And she might know a
right.
lot. Yeah.
Well, and actually, when she does say something as a possible tip to the two guys that she's first working with, um, they kind of are like, oh, okay, Tess, but then but they're also like, oh, that was like that would be kind of a smart move, but like, what do you like? All right, well, maybe one day, and like they're very broy and jerks to her. So it's like, well, no one takes you seriously. No one's going to take you seriously when you're at this level and you look like you do and you have the accent you have. And I'm sorry, like, that's it. You just have to accept that way, which is kind of what she talks about with Sin, when Sin is like, I
Sin is
don't know.
It's Joan Cusack, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joan Cusack. Because I mean, Sin is her best friend and is looking out for her and gives her legitimately good advice, except when she's talking about maybe you should like sort of entertain the idea of talking more with Mick, the cheating ex-boyfriend that she caught in her bed. Um, like giving him maybe a little bit more of a chance or just talk to him. Well, maybe marriage is something you want to do, when he like ridiculously proposes to her at the Sin's engagement party. And it's like the fact that Tess even says maybe and is willing to maybe think about something could happen, because they like, as she puts it, we had a drink and we danced a dance and then you proposed to me. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like 3 days ago, you were with Doreen, and to him, and sort of to their group of friends, it's almost like, yeah, but you want to have this life and that. And it's like, she has to fight against all of that, I think. And even with her friends saying, are you sure? And, you're faking this, you're being an imposter, like, you're going to crash this wedding. Like, I don't know if this is a great idea. And it's all true. It's all stuff I would say. I would be like, I don't know if this is going to work out. This could end in jail. I don't know. But it is a little bit telling that she has all these things dragging her back, that honestly, with Alex in Flashdance, she's she's a kid and she wants to be a dancer, and yes, she's got stuff against her for sure, but it's just different when you're trying to break into dance.
Mm-hmm.
You have a full-time day job, so that's something, probably union. uh and you're 20 or something, or really 18, like, you got options in some ways. Like, it's harder, it's still hard, but it's still not so crazy for you to break into the dance world in the way that she wants to. compared to, because you don't need a lot and you aren't supporting a lot, compared to I'm 30 and I have all the education. I've tried to make all these contacts. I keep getting slapped down. When's this going to work?
Right. And so you're saying for Tess, it's like she kind of needs to play her own game to rise the way a lot of I think I don't know, business people
Yeah,
do.
I
Yeah.
do. I think that is how it usually goes. It is a lot of, especially like Wall Street and stuff. Like, again, that's another like fake it till you make it kind of situation where you just, if you just make the right friends, you're doing the right
Just but
networking.
then everybody's a fake. And this
Well,
is what
that's how it
there's a
is.
couple issues that I have in general. First is I think that looking at the dynamics of these movies and the way
Mhm.
that the relationships work is really helpful because it I think it influences us so much, especially if anybody who's watching movies as a young person, which most kids are. When you watch these sorts of dynamics play out, you're learning while you're watching. Like these things are landing somewhere in your psyche and
Sure.
giving you some kind of instruction about how things work, whether we want to accept that or not.
No, it has
That's
an effect.
how, yeah, that's just kind of how your brain processes the movies. So I do think that the dynamics of, you know, the romance or the relationships um, do two things. I think they teach people the way things work that people might assume that's how it works in the real world.
Right.
And maybe it doesn't. I also think sometimes those movies create a culture and expectation that leads to other movies that do similar things. So if it's problematic in the dynamics, it doesn't matter because or it does matter, but I'm saying if it's problematic, no one's calling it out and saying, "Hey, this is an unhealthy, way to go," because more stories if it makes money, more
Right.
stories are going to be told in similar ways, and I think that's where the consciousness piece comes in and like what people create in the movie industry. The second thing is that you're saying, and I think you're saying both things. Um, you have to fake it till you make it. And that's just kind of the way it goes. But then the problem is, I think you have a lot of fakes and you have people running corporations, Hollywood studios, governments, wherever you want to go, whatever
Right.
institution you want to go, who are becoming straw people, the term like straw man or
Yeah.
straw woman, because they're not really authentically acting from what they trust is the way to go, but
Yeah.
instead just what the culture of that place is in order to rise, which means that they're worshiping their prestige, their status, and their money rather than their own integrity. And we don't see enough integrity, I think. And that's why we're in situations we're in today when we look around the world. I mean, there's
Yeah.
always every era has its own problems, but
Well, these are human stories that go
yeah.
on millennia. So
Yeah.
like, and when I say fake it till you make it,
Most people say that. So I'm not trying to like
oh no, I'm just
criticize you.
saying,
Yeah.
like to me, in this, well, when I'm saying it really, uh, you do actually like you fake maybe feeling confident when you're kind of feeling nervous and unsure of yourself. You are faking certain things in the way of like your emotions, and it's not necessarily being false. It's just this is the way I got to get it done. So I'm just going to go out there and put this persona forward because I have the goods to back it up, I think. But in order to get over that first hurdle, I have to project a certain way. And everybody does that to some extent, no matter what. And so like there are people where it's like they're just fraudsters, and that's a different story. That's like, getting into the influencer culture and all that kind of stuff. But this is more of a you got the goods, but you're not necessarily coming from the background that makes you feel like you got the goods when it comes to competing in a workplace with other people that maybe are coming from a different echelon of society, which is what I think is happening with Tess because she's still being true in the way of how she interacts with people and her values. And I do like at the end where she gets to be the female boss and is actually being genuine and says to the secretary that she thought was maybe the boss because she was sitting in her office. I think it's very touching at the end that she's like first so in disbelief about she has an office. Also, the way she's ready to go get her secretary coffee because she thinks that she's working for her, and and then gets coffee served to her and she's kind of like astonished. And then when she's just taking in the fact that she is in this office and she's looking out and then turns around to the assistant and is just like, just kind of softens a bit more and just is like, you call me Tess. And she's saying it in a much better, more true way than Sigourney Weaver did when she said, you can call me Catherine, because it was like imperious. And she says, don't get coffee unless you're getting yourself one for me. And let's just take it from there. Like, I'm new to this, you're new to this, we're going to learn.
I didn't buy it. I get that it was in a script and she said it. I just didn't feel it. Like, and also I don't like that I'm being a little blunt. I didn't like that it's called Working Girl because it's
Oh, well, yeah, that's
infantilizing
problematic.
her. I don't think she's empowered. I just don't, yeah, it like fits the script and the arc of the screenplay that someone was
Sure.
writing in order to make money to fit the culture of like
Well,
women
that's every movie.
progress,
Let's be
women are
real.
making progress. But
We're not going to make
I just
money.
didn't feel her. I felt like she did not feel strong to me. She felt
I think
like,
it's her, so I think her voice and her tone of voice is soft. And I do think that that presents a like, you don't feel
so that
necessarily she
she's
has.
not threatening. See, to me, she's cast in that role from the producers because she's not threatening in that role. But a woman who comes in and does know what she wants and does know how to play the game and does have it in a deeper level would have been like, oh no, she like people would be scared of her. So they wouldn't have cast her in that role. They had to cast someone, I think. And I'm not judging Melanie Griffith as an actress. You know, she was in this role. I'm just saying I
Yeah,
didn't feel a sense of empowerment other than just um they had to create a story arc with an
yeah.
ending that people would say, "Oh wow, look at this ending," and not necessarily authentically represent the story. Like to me, it's more like if you compare Devil Wears Prada. Okay. All
Well,
right.
that's a very different time period too
Different
that
time
you're doing.
period, but like that, I feel that story in the empowerment piece because it's not about making the money. It's not about rising through the ranks. She starts to fake it. She starts to become like those people. There's so many movies like this. It's very
Of
common, right? The
course.
women who are in a certain cultural milieu and they start to become like that because you can't help but adapt. But then in Devil Wears Prada, is that Alex too? Alex,
It
I
might
think she's
be.
Alex,
No,
Anne
Andy.
Hathaway.
Andy.
Andy, again with the masculine feminine. Alex is
Yeah.
masculine feminine, Andy's masculine feminine, it could go either way. But she's saying I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go after what my heart really wants.
Hmm.
Maybe it's less money, but I can't keep doing this. That to me was empowering as a story that I would show young people, right?
Hmm.
Working Girl just felt trashy to me. Like not super trashy, but just kind of like someone's giving you a cup of water and you're like, what's in that tap water? Like, what's going on with this?
Well, that's just
This
1980s
isn't
New
spring
York. I don't know
water.
what you're gonna do. What you gonna
Yeah.
do? And she's on the ferry from, Long Island or Staten Island. Like, there's gonna be that element, regardless. And they want it to be because they want to show the stark difference of the two worlds she goes in between, I think. Um, I get what you're saying. It's not like I I don't like absolutely love either of the protagonists in these
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I will say maybe just because it was Jennifer Beals like first acting gig, I believe, her first movie, and she was very young. Um, and the movie itself wasn't like super complex. And Working Girl is basic in a lot of ways, but it is more fully formed in the way of the plot and the characters within it. Um,
More fully formed than Flashdance as a story?
just has more to it, it felt like.
Hmm.
Like
I mean,
there's these little side things where it's like her friend who wants to be the ice skate or whatever, and then she gets down and dirty into stripping because she's fallen so low, and then she gets picked back up because it's like this isn't for you. And it's like, okay, next scene. It's a little bit more of a shallow thing. I'm not saying Working Girl has all these deep characters, but there is a little bit more of a range of emotions. And maybe that is just also Melanie Griffith, actress, had been at the game longer. And Jennifer Beals, I think part of why she got cast is just she had the look they wanted, which is beautiful. And
mhm.
she could play like this very like the ingenue and very sensitive looking too, like with her eyes and everything. But she really wasn't a dancer. She wasn't a, any kind of like known actor, or I don't think she'd acted at all, but maybe I'm wrong. So it's more of a like vibes performance, I feel like maybe
Yeah,
with,
it probably is. And also, I mean, I
and that's
respect,
not bad. It's just different.
yeah, I respect what you're saying about sometimes to make it in a bit the business world, maybe women would have had to do different kinds of things to make it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been seen. And also, maybe we're just different in the sense that I really like to dance and I do more art and stuff like that, and you are someone who I think has always really fit well in an office setting. Like you like office settings, it's like a fit for you, so
To a
maybe
degree,
that's
yeah.
why you're sort of more seeing the working girl way and I'm more the flash
Yes.
dance. But we need a
I love a good
Baltimore.
dance movie, but I feel like it's one long dance video is really what the
I didn't
movie
mind that
is.
though. I didn't mind
And
that.
and that's okay, but it is not like as much of a film in the way
Yeah,
of the dialogue and the like character development.
I think it's the
It's more
seems like
like what do we do in between? What can we put in and then go to the next dance scene to a degree, which is fine
maybe
again. Because
maybe
it is
yeah,
like it's got great music. I'm digging it. I'm like, it's taking me back in time. I mean, not to the original year because we were like three,
5 4 5,
4,
yeah.
5, whatever when it came out. But like when you'd watch it on not HBO, but like cable, and it would show it and it would be edited and whatever else, and you'd see it when you were like 10, and it was very cool. Um, and I love the leg warmers and all of it. Like, and the
Yeah,
dance, it's great, but it is like seeing it as an adult is a little bit more like, okay, okay. And there's just farcical elements to it. Like all the welding guys are clapping when they make up after she throws a rock through his window because he was out with his
that was
ex-wife.
really extreme
Yeah, like that's
and
where I'm talking about the
immature.
teenager thing.
Super immature, yeah.
Just
So is there
throw.
a Baltimore? So I'm just curious, like, is there a Maryland? Is there a movie set in Maryland with like a young heroine trying to rise through the ranks or like make money, or she's new to the working world? I feel like I'm just,
I'm
or
sure there
Philadelphia,
is.
or
I don't know.
Philadelphia.
Let's you think about John Waters movies.
I feel
Sometimes
like
they're trying
maybe,
to make it in a very different kind of world, but they are trying to get ahead.
yeah, it would also be fun to see Joan Cusack. I mean, I don't know about now, but hey, why not now? Doing like she's the lead singer of a girl band.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
they're like, I feel like I'm just,
I could see
this
that.
is me riffing. Joan
Or the
Cusack's in a
drummer.
movie. Joan Cusack's in a movie where it's these moms and they I'm already it's like um these moms are frustrated because their kids are teenagers now. They don't know like what their role is in life and they're living in this suburb and they get together for like wine nights, and they have
Oh,
snacks.
you're in
And
slow
they're really
motion.
all just really feeling sad and unwanted and unneeded and what do they do with themselves? And they decide to start like a band. And then she's the singer playing
Huh?
guitar.
No, I absolutely could see that. And one day maybe we will.
Yeah, maybe we will. All right, are you ready to read
Yep.
the
Yeah, let me
script?
pull it up.
Okay. What would be the band's name? That I feel like I didn't write that script because that's a feature film. That's not a short script. But like what would be the I feel like her name would be Kate. I'm just inventing this for Joan.
Fine, go ahead.
Her name is Kate, and it's called Kate's Band.
Original.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Kate's Band,
It
and
would either be that or it would be some sort of play on words with for women or moms or like, but like in a slightly negative way, like, but negative in the way that they're like, I don't know, bad
but
bitches or
I
something.
feel like it has to be distinctive from the bridesmaids kinds of movies. Like it's not in the who's the woman Kristen something from Saturday Night Live, the funny one. She does the
Oh,
funny.
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah. It has to be different and distinctive. It's not just another Kristen Wiig comedy flick. Joan
Hmm.
Cusack's movie, right? It's really distinctive because I would have to talk to Joan Cusack, get to know her, and then I
Sure.
would make the script for her because it's like it has to be made for her. She's the lead character, and it's all because we don't want her pushed off to the side. We want
Well,
her
that's true.
we want her to have a prominent
A
role.
vehicle that's built around her.
Yeah. And who else? I mean, we could throw John Cusack in that movie. Well, what would he be? He could still
He
be her
would be a
brother. He could be her
side
brother.
character,
Yeah, he'd be her brother. He'd be
but he would
like
not have as many lines.
right. He's like the uncle who comes over and sometimes he plays basketball with the kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works.
Yep.
Ugh.
All right.
Sun is hitting my screen and it's showing all this dust I can barely see.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is called Flashdance meets Working Girl in a Bar. And Alex, we're just going with Alex and Sin. Oh no, shoot. I said Sin.
Yeah, I was
Maybe
wondering
it
why
is
you were
Sin.
doing that.
Hey, it's Sin. I don't know why
Okay.
Sin has become Tessish, but maybe what happens is in my subconscious when I developed this script right before we talked, I'm gonna talk around it now. So Tess,
Mm-hmm.
so what is Joan? We do get to pull in the Joan Cusack. Maybe what happens is Sin sees Tess doing what she's doing, so Sin's like, I'll do the same thing. That's kind of
Yeah,
how things work, right?
yeah, that's true. Friends do influence friends, especially if they are suddenly being successful.
Yeah.
All
So do you
right.
want to be Alex or Sin? Alex is a 20 something steelworker, dancer, and dreamer, and Sin is a 20 something prostitute.
Yeah, I did. When I read that, I was like, okay, a lot of stuff's happened in Sin's life since we left her. Like, damn. And I thought you purposely chose Sin because it was Joan Cusack's character. Now I see what really possibly occurred,
I'm giving you a
but
behind the
it still
scenes
was
look
funny
at, me rushing to write a script
of what
before
your thought process might have been if it wasn't right before this.
it was a higher hand. Just
As a yes, higher power.
um so who
Okay,
do you be?
I would be. Do we have to do accents?
No,
'Cause-
no, no, don't
okay.
do it. Yeah.
Uh, then I could be. I would be Sin.
Okay. All right. So I'll be Alex. Okay. Sin
Okay.
is sitting at her favorite pub in Philadelphia on a Monday night. Alex walks in and sits next to her. The two start up a conversation while eating French fries. I haven't been to this pub before. Is it a good one?
Yes, it's my favorite. They always play the Phillies when they're on.
Oh, you like the Phillies? I'm from Pittsburgh. We're all about pirates over there.
Well, I'm from New York and we have Yankees and Mets, and it's too hard to choose one. So I just picked the Phillies. Keeps life simple.
Haha, you're funny. I agree. There are sometimes too many options. I think it makes sense to just focus on wherever you are, whenever you are there. But the Phillies is so weird. Like, what does it mean to be a Philly? It's not like a pirate or a Yankee.
Well, I don't know exactly what a Philly is, but I think it has something to do with being from Philadelphia. And there is something in the water like no place else.
You sound like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, only it's not Kansas you're talking about, but Philadelphia. Philly ain't no other place like it.
Well, what are you doing in town if you're not from here?
I have family. My sister just had a baby, so I'm visiting. And you?
I have a gentleman caller. I drive down from New York and he puts me up in a nice place some weekends. I'm heading back tomorrow.
What is a gentleman caller?
He calls me, I come.
Oh, I think I see.
I think you see too.
People still do that?
Yes, sometimes.
And how does that feel for you in your body?
Hmm. Interesting question. I don't know. I just go numb and do what I have to do, and then I get paid. Well, what do you do for a living?
I work in steel.
Interesting. Not very feminine.
I also dance. Dancing is really my dream. It just doesn't pay the bills.
Well, it can if you want it to.
But dancing for me is different. It really puts me in touch with something deep inside me. It stops me from being numb, actually. It helps me make decisions. It helps me overcome depression. I just need to dance and breathe, and things keep working out for me.
Really. I never heard of that. We don't think that way where I come from.
You should try it. You wouldn't have to numb yourself for money, and you can do it in the privacy of your own place and just start to feel things you need to feel. Just dance and breathe. I promise it can make you happy.
Well, will it make me as happy as French fries?
Good question. Let's say it will make you equally happy, but you won't gain any weight and it's free. You'll try it?
I'll try it.
Promise me?
I promise.
Okay, before we leave this bar tonight, I'm getting your number and I'm going to check up on you.
You're sweet. Check away.
The two watch the Phillies and eat their french fries until it's time to leave and they exchange numbers and give one another a hug. All right, I want to give feedback about my script. It's such a little after school movie or something. What the heck? It was so, I think this
I
was a
know, it's
very
like you're trying to
cheesy.
save her.
I know. It's like insight into my psyche or something.
It's very 80s.
It was it 80s?
Well, just after school special.
Yeah, I felt like it was an after school special I wrote.
Yeah.
It wasn't really
Like
fun and I didn't really feel either character was fun or authentic and it
it
was
was
just
just
like
like this is
flat.
a moral tale and
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to get you out of this life. It's like good girls go bad
I know.
or like I don't know. Daughter, dearest, colon, good girls go bad. Like I
I
don't
know.
like that.
Well, that neither movie was really funny.
Not like laugh out loud, no. Definitely not. It
Yeah.
had some like smiling type moments, but not really like there were no guffaws.
But it is, I mean, at least it's about like friendship and sisterhood and french fries. I mean, I do think you can get far with those.
Of course. Very far,
And the Phillies maybe, perhaps.
I guess. You know my team,
I know.
the
Yeah.
Orioles, but only because it's the hometown. And you know, I
Yeah.
don't really follow it unless they're winning. And even then, I probably still wouldn't watch the game.
You always root for the home team. And if you're in a bar and the Phillies are on, you have to watch it. And that's kind of how I
If they're
operate.
the only ones, then yeah, like if that, I will root for my home team first and then my like adopted team from college and after. And that's pretty much where I leave it.
Yeah, I only know my home teams and I don't know when they're on,
Me neither.
but I do like hanging out at the local, like at the pub that's nearby because there's always nice people.
I like
And
camaraderie. That's
yeah,
fine.
and
Even
we
going
just
to a
watch.
game can
Yeah,
be nice. It's a
yeah,
beautiful day out. You're hanging
right,
out. It's like I don't
right,
have to pay a ton of attention.
right.
It's going to move pretty slowly, but I can understand the rules. So I don't mind that.
Yeah, yeah.
But beyond a free ticket here and there, I don't care.
Yeah, I feel like this script was just not really fully formed. I'm disappointed in myself about it.
Don't be disappointed. You just did that like
I really like
before.
I really like the Joan Cusack becomes Kate the mom who has a band.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's way better. So we're just gonna let that be the real
That's the,
story
yeah,
moving
the
forward.
story that was not told, the
Yeah.
untold story.
But I do think of Alex in Flashdance as like the one who saves the girls going awry kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, I could see that. I
Yeah.
don't think she'd be as good as saving a stranger in one night, but yeah.
They're just exchanging numbers. Thank you to anyone who put up with this crazy, strange, diversionary
Yeah.
jaunt into the 80s films, Flashdance and Working Girl.
Mm-hmm.
We are only here because of Joan Cusack, and perhaps she is an actress who just allows a weaving of various films to come together for
Mm-hmm.
comparison. And she's also fun, and she makes movies happier. And that's no small thing.
It's true.
No
She's
small
got
thing.
depth. She's got depth.
She's got depth. Yeah. So thank you for joining the Ms. Wonderful Film Club podcast or video cast. You can learn more about the movies that I cover through the blog mswonderful.substack.com. It is about a feminine lens, a different approach to looking at movies, and also about relationships. And again, I want to thank you, Ms. Cool, my best friend, Katie, for
You're
coming.
welcome.
Thank you as always. And you can learn more about healing and the intersection of art and healing work on my website, www.janamarierose.com. And Jana is spelled Jana. Thank you for joining and have a wonderful day.